Hey everybody, welcome to Squealing Tires, the weekly audio podcast for DFSCheatSheet.com. I'm the NASCAR contributor, Tyler Miller. Glad to have you along. Thanks for tuning in as we go through and get ready for the Auto Club 400 at Auto Club Speedway in Southern California. This is race number 3 for the 2020 NASCAR Cup season. And Clint Bowyer won the pole for this race. He topped Jimmy Johnson by 7/1000ths of a second. For his 4th pole of his career. A couple other qualifying notes as we get set to look at this race from a DFS perspective. Martin Truex Jr. failed pre-qualifying inspection 3 times. His car chief got ejected and he did not get to post a qualifying lap, so he will officially start the race 38th, which is important to think about as you get set to put your lineup together on FanDuel or DraftKings for this NASCAR race, which will lock on Sunday afternoon at 3:30 p.m. For Fontana. It's a 200-lap race. It's a 2-mile racetrack. It's an intermediate racetrack. Stage 1 will end on lap 60, Stage 2, 120, and then you'll have an 80-lap final stage to determine the winner. Last year, Kyle Busch won this race from a 4th-place starting position. The year before that, Martin Truex Jr. won from the pole, and the year before that, Kyle Larson won 2016 from the pole. The last 3 years, each of the winners have led over 100 laps en route to victory, which I think is important because especially if you're playing on DraftKings, the leader is probably going to be the fastest car on the racetrack for most of the run. And if someone leads over half the race, you got to play them. I mean, it's something we found out a lot on DraftKings. If there's a dominator, unless he wrecks late, you really need to have him in your lineup, especially with DraftKings scoring. But as we get you ready for this, I think there's some very clear plays to me. I think FanDuel has helped us out a lot with some of their pricing and the way you can fit. You can really fit 4 contenders in on FanDuel, and you can get a nice mix of guys who are going to end up in the top 10 and have not great starting positions and guys who are going to run up front all day. To me, it kind of starts with the obvious pick, and it's Martin Truex Jr. Martin Truex starting 38th. He was 3rd in final practice. The Toyotas as a whole are really struggling in this intermediate package, and I don't know why, but Martin Truex Jr. seems to just be exempt. He was the only Toyota that ran well at Las Vegas. He had damage late, ran into the wall, and had an issue, and ended up not a great finish. But he was the only Toyota that ran up front. He was the only Toyota that was good at all in practice. And I mean, we're talking his 5-lap average time wasn't that great. It was 15th, but he was really consistent over the runs. He ran a 41.31 in a 5-lap average, ran a 41.39 as a 10-lap average speed, and a 41.53 in a 15-lap. So his 10-lap average speed was good for 3rd best, and his 15-lap average speed was also 3rd best out of the 20 cars that ran 15 consecutive laps at Fontana in final practice. I think Truex is just don't overthink it. Like, you need to play him. If you're going to enter 10 lineups into something, or if you're going to max enter 150 lineups into something, I think you need Truex in 80 to 90% of them. I just really like Truex this weekend for Fontana. The other guy I think you got to look at is Joey Logano. I wrote in Victory Lane, which you can read on DFSCheatSheet.com. I think Joey Logano has the 2nd best car at Auto Club Speedway this weekend, and it showed in practice. I mean, I was really happy that he qualified 7th. I think he went out kind of in the middle. There was an interesting dynamic in qualifying because the sun came out after about 15 cars qualified, and it heated up the track, and it really affected some people. One guy it really affected was William Byron, because I don't know if you have much experience. It's something I've learned a lot riding motorcycles in the summertime when there's a lot of heat on a hot summer day, and you see those seams. Sometimes, especially here in New Jersey, the DOT crews will patch seams in the asphalt with this like tar substance. And if you catch it just wrong on a motorcycle, it really gets your attention. You slip, kind of slip over it and just have that moment. And William Byron had a moment like that in turn two in qualifying. It messed up his lap, and he ended up qualifying 21st with a car that ran top 10 times in practice. So Logano, he qualified seventh. I think he has the second best car. I think Logano and Truex are just locks. I think there's no reason to look anywhere else. In a normal race, if this was last year, Denny Hamlin starting 28th. Whoa, that's a lock button. 11K, go, lock him in your lineup. Denny Hamlin's slow. They talked to him before qualifying. He's like, I don't know what's wrong with our car. It feels okay. We're just not fast enough. And this is an impound race. The teams aren't able to do really anything to their car between qualifying and the start of the race. I don't think the 11 has any time to find speed. I don't think the 18 has any time to find speed. You look at the other drivers at the top. Can Brad Keselowski run okay? Sure. But for 12,000, I think you're better off with Logano and Truex, and then I think you go down from there. And I think you look at the best car at Auto Club Speedway this weekend is Alex Bowman. Bowman won both practices. He was the fastest in the lap averages for the amount of laps that he ran. Now, he didn't run over 10 consecutive laps in final practice, but for the 5 and 10 lap runs, he was the fastest speed. He was the only driver to have a 5-lap average speed under 41 seconds. He was almost 0.3 faster than Joey Logano in a 5-lap average, and he was about the same margin faster than Joey Logano in a 10-lap average. So I think Alex Bowman, starting third, I think he gets the lead early and pulls away. And if he doesn't mess it up, and that was kind of Bowman's interviews, right? All week long, he said, this car unloaded fast. As long as the driver doesn't screw it up, we're going to have a great day. And at this point, Alex Bowman has earned my trust. He's done really well at these tracks, 1.5 miles to 2 miles in length. They finished 13th last week, which was a little out of the ordinary, but it was all the scenario at the end of that race, and it was the scenario that prevented us from cashing. With Ross Chastain's wreck late, you had the caution, and then overtime, only a couple laps to go, and Bowman pitted after being in the lead. Blaney was in the lead. Blaney and Bowman both pitted, and neither of them finished where they should have. Was Blaney going to win that race, or was Bowman? I think it was going to come down right to it, but I think they both had strong cars, and I think they both have strong cars again this weekend. You look at Alex Bowman. I really like him. I think you can build a core with Truex, Logano, and Bowman. So on FanDuel, you have a 12.5, a 13.5, and a $10,000 driver. You have to find some salary relief somewhere, and I think you can find it. I love FanDuel when they do this, right? So Corey LaJoie is priced at $3,000 on FanDuel. I think that's way too cheap. I think, they have a bunch of $2,000 price drivers, but that's all garbage cars. You can roll with Reed Sorensen starting 33rd if you want to for 2K. But, if Reed has a good day, he's going to finish 28th. If Corey LaJoie has a good day starting 26th, he'll finish 20th, maybe 19th or 18th. But I think for $3,000 with Corey LaJoie as your value driver on FanDuel, you can feel pretty confident that he's going to finish around where he started. Maybe does he finish 28th? Okay, that's not going to kill your day, right? Especially on FanDuel where it's only half a point per differential. But I think he could finish a couple spots ahead of where he starts for $3,000. You get a top 25 finish, and you move on, and then you can fit someone like Ryan Blaney in your lineup who's starting 16th and ran top 5 speeds in final practice. Or you can finish you can put Jimmy Johnson in. If you think Jimmy Johnson's going to lead laps early, it could be a storybook fairy tale type race. This is Jimmy Johnson's home racetrack, Southern California. He pops out there at the start of the race. I don't think Clint Bowyer's going to be a thing tomorrow. I'm not worried at all about Clint Bowyer winning this race and dominating it. That's not something Clint Bowyer does. I think maybe he leads early. Maybe he leads most of the first stage, but I think he'll fade. Can Clint Bowyer finish in the top 10? Sure. But I don't know that, taking a -7 differential in the 8th or 9th place finish is what you want in DFS. So I'm not on Clint Bowyer at all. And maybe that's to my detriment, but I'm off of it. Not looking at it. Now, another thing to just touch on briefly. Last year, we did a thing where a lot of these 550 horsepower packages at these intermediate tracks, you looked at the qualifying and you said, okay, These guys are obviously trimmed out. They went as fast as they could in qualifying, and they're going to fade during the race. These guys had more downforce in qualifying. They didn't qualify as well, and they're going to do well in the race. I didn't see that today. There are definitely some cars that are super trimmed out, like Michael McDowell, who qualified eighth. Um, the Stewart Haas Fords were all pretty good in qualifying. Boyer first, Harvick fifth, Almirola sixth. Um, the temperatures in Fontana tomorrow are going to be a little bit cooler. There is a chance of rain, but overcast skies, cloudy skies, grip's going to be a thing. I think everybody everybody can read the weather forecast, and they knew what they were going to have. And I think a trimmed out car is going to do fine. I don't think there's a big advantage or disadvantage either way with this rules package for this year and the way these cars are set up with the weather forecast tomorrow. I don't think it's going to be a big issue. We'll see. But I'm not on Clint Boyer starting on the pole. I do like Jimmy Johnson second. It's dangerous. I wrote in Victory Lane that my big decision right now in my FanDuel lineup is between Jimmy Johnson and Ryan Blaney, and I'm really leaning towards Blaney. And I tell you what I really like is the FanDuel. If you play the FanDuel Quick Pick tournaments, which there aren't very many of them, there's like a $1, a $5, and a $33 tournament, I think, if you want to get in on. But in the Quick Pick, it's kind of nice because you can play Blaney, Johnson, and Bowman together. What you can't do is play Logano and Truex together. And I like playing Logano and Quick Pick over Truex because I think everybody's just automatically going to default Truex, not even think about it, not even worry about it. And if anything happens, or even if Truex just advances his position to 15th and has really good differential, but Joey Logano leads the most laps and wins the race, I think he can do well there. And then for the field category there, you could play Corey LaJoie, which I think is by far the best in that category. I think he's the best overall value driver on FanDuel. Now on DraftKings, your lineup build gets a little bit different because if you want to stick with that core, which I think you should with Truex, Logano, and Bowman, you're going to have to get a little bit weird in your other three drivers. I like Corey LaJoie. It's okay. It's 5,400. It's not the best value in the world. But you look at, other guys that are down there, and I'm just not into this pricing on DraftKings. But, it's the same for everybody. Everybody's got to figure it out. For 6,100, do you want to play Bubba Wallace starting 14th? No, thank you. John Hunter Nemechek starting 23rd? I don't know. Michael McDowell starting 8th? Nope. Ryan Preece? No, thank you. And I'm a hard pass on everyone below them. This isn't like the Xfinity race where you can just play the guy that's going to that's starting last, who is going to at least try to run the entire race and then just fall into a top 15 finish, like we did on Saturday with the Xfinity race. And I don't even remember that guy's name, Lyons or something. Started 35th and ended up with like a top 20 finish, which was outstanding. It's not going to be like that. Those guys are all going to finish. They're going to start in the 30s and they're going to finish in the 30s unless a dozen cars wreck. Like that's just, the Brennan Pools and Reed Sorensens and Smithley, Gase, Huff. No. This isn't, there's a big difference between their cars and the race cars that we want to play, which I think the bottom end of the guys we want to play is Corey LaJoie, and I'm good with that. I think we roll with him and keep going down the road. So I think on DraftKings, you got to look at guys like Austin Dillon starting 25th. I don't think Austin Dillon has a top 10 car, but I think he probably has a top 15 car if things work out for him. So you're looking at plus 10 differential there for Dillon. Tyler Reddick starting 19th, and I think Reddick might have top 10 speed, but he's not experienced. There's some risk there. Can he finish 14th? Sure. That's plus 5. That's not great. I don't like it on FanDuel. I like it better on DraftKings. Just because I think everybody's going to be in that boat. Everybody on DraftKings is going to see the Truex and Logano. They're going to know Bowman was fast, or they're going to try to play Ryan Blaney, who is within a couple $100 of Bowman. Blaney's 600 more. So they'd be in even worse. If you play Blaney over Bowman, you're going to be even worse position. You can't play all four of them like you can on FanDuel. So that gets more complicated because then you would really be just, playing who's starting 37th, Timmy Hill, and just hope for the best, although that car will probably blow an engine before the end of the first stage. So that's kind of where I'm at. You check it out, dfscheatsheet.com. You can check out Victory Lane. If you want to look at some stats and make your own decision and play your own lineup, that's awesome. The setup is something I posted earlier in the week. Just kind of has a rundown, has Vegas odds, the opening odds, driver ratings. You can look at average running positions, laps led, and the last 3 races at Auto Club Speedway. The top 10 are all listed, as well as the winners, their starting positions ever since. I'm scrolling up real quick, since 2015. So you can check all of that out, dfscheatsheet.com. I'm Tyler Miller. Thanks so much for listening. Hopefully we have a good Sunday at Auto Club Speedway.